So you got an FPV and you came across this guy. Or this guy. Or maybe this guy. But all you seem to do is this. So what does it take to actually be good? Well, let's talk about it. So what even is this thing we call FPV Freestyle? Because really being free of style is just going out there and just really doing anything. But it's human nature for us to try and separate ourselves out into different categories, whether that be you're a good pilot or a bad pilot, or maybe your flight style fits into a specific box like Spang, Juicy, Flow, or I even like to consider cinematic as a type of freestyle flight as well. But at what point outside of your own self-imposed benchmarks or goals are you considered good objectively from somebody else's point of view? And will you ever feel good enough creatively? Whatever that may mean to you. Personally, I think there's a level of fuck it you need to have when it comes to breaking through these mental barriers that we tend to set for ourselves. And this usually comes with how comfortable we are with risk-taking, in my opinion. Not being afraid to crash, do repairs, and lose your drone forever. And you can pretty much apply this to anything outside of FPV as well. Take a look at X Games, for example. Those guys are flying on dirt bikes across the air, and they've constantly risked their lives to the point where they're comfortable with it, no matter how much they've trained. And I bring this up because for me, when I was first starting out, I was super afraid of having to fix something or something going wrong, or maybe even just wasting my money. And what I'm starting to notice now is that I care a lot less than I used to about a couple months ago about breaking things. And I went from being mad that something probably broke to almost laughing at this point that I just destroyed something, depending on how easy it is to replace or repair. And this new perspective is all due to practicing, which is my next point. Making a legit effort to actually practice how you fly in the simulator. Because crashing while attempting something dope you've been learning on the simulator is a lot more fun than crashing because you have no idea what you're doing on the sticks. I've scrolled through tons of freestyle video comments where people say, "How are you so good?" or "I wish I was as good as insert pilot name here," or "What are your rates?" That's always a weird one. And the truth of the matter is, they just do it more. And by more, I mean practice, crash, fix, repeat. PCFR. That's a new acronym for you. That's why they're so good. Over time, they learn and take influence from other pilots and mix styles until eventually, on the other end of that, they come out with something that they can identify with that makes them stand out. And then, boom, there goes your favorite FPV pilot. Very much an art form. But going back to practice, I think it's important to consider how you're practicing. And what I mean by this is, what sim are you using? How often are you in there? What settings do you have configured to make the drone in the simulator feel as close to as real life as possible? So rates, weight of the battery, weight of the drone that you pick, camera angle, etc. Are you actually practicing for the type of freestyle that you want to get better at? And are you actually attempting what you've attempted in the simulator in real life? Because we've all been there where we practice something a million times in the simulator, but then once we make it out to actually fly, we just blank and forget it all. As for me, I've been making more of an effort to practice Spang and Juicy and trying to bring them together into my own little style. And I think after a few months now, I'm finally starting to see a little bit of progress. A little bit of progress after a long time of not even knowing where to begin. And I started off watching a whole bunch of how-to trick videos, and I quickly learned that learning a bunch of tricks isn't the key to actually getting better. And if you really watch your favorite pilot, you'll learn that they really only have a solid 3 to 5 tricks that they just learn to manipulate and chain together in different ways to make the flight interesting over time. And they also do it in proximity to objects, which makes it 10 times more dope. So what's really helped me is watching other pilots and trying to mimic what they do and then somehow making it my own. And then from that point, trying to connect it with other things that I like to do, like rewinds, for example. Rewinds and locking horizon is like 50% of Spang, depending on your personality, and a little bit of Juicy if you really pay attention. I might be over exaggerating a little bit, but think of it this way. Think of it like basketball, right? In basketball, there's really only two ways you can go around someone, left or right. How are you going to make it interesting? Practicing in real life outside of the simulator also goes hand in hand with how well your drone is tuned. Whether you're using a preset or you're learning how to tune the drone yourself, you'll get more out of the drone and practicing will be way more effective. And you can often tell just how well someone has tuned their drone, especially if they're a great pilot, because there's zero instability in the flight footage, and it almost looks fake and gravity defying. But finding a way to get your drone tuned and your rate set properly is the first big step in your journey to becoming the pilot you envision yourself being. Unless you just want to get out there and go for it and you don't really care, just go have fun. But tuning your drone also goes hand in hand with the way you want to fly. If you like flying more aggressive, you can tune for that. If you want a more flowy style, you can also adjust for that. And it's fully understandable if you don't want to go into the whole thing of learning how to tune your drone and so on and so forth, because it's a pretty involved process, especially when it comes to understanding what you're doing, how you're doing it, and how it affects the drone in detail. I've done it a few times at this point and I still struggle to understand things. But luckily we have people like Brian from PID Toolbox and Chris Rosser who actually take the time to make videos to really break these things down in detail in a way that you can understand them. And there's a whole science to it, from learning how to configure the ESC, learning how to do your filtering, learning how to read black box logs, PID tuning, so on and so forth. It's so much. All the way down to the video system you use. If you really want to get crazy about latency or penetration, you can do so. But that's a little outside of the scope of what I'm presenting to you right now as far as tuning is concerned. The next thing that actually makes a huge difference is your location. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's seen a freestyle video and you ask yourself, where the hell did this person find an abandoned resort? Or where did this person find a perfectly huge field with perfectly placed trees? Or how does this person find a perfect bando in the middle of nowhere? And a lot of times it's simply because of just where they live. Personally, I'd love to fly a bando if we had them here in Kentucky, but we don't. The only abandoned buildings that we have here are barns, and they're located on horse farms, on private property, in an open carry state, so you get the idea. But what I'm getting at here is I only have so many places to fly. And that impacts how I fly, which has led me to be more spangy and flowy versus somebody who can fly these abandoned buildings and can put together a proper line and hit tight gaps and fly controlled through buildings, blah 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 blah. So where you're located could potentially force you into a specific style of flight or even a specific size of drone depending on where you're located throughout the world. Another thing I've noticed is how the weather actually affects my willingness and motivation to actually want to go outside and fly in the first place. And I've come to the realization that I'm okay with being hot, but what I'm not okay with is suffocating because of 80+% humidity with a 95-degree heat index and rain 4 to 5 times a week for 4 months straight. So that's kept me in the house more than I'd like this summer and has pretty much confined me to the simulator. And it's pretty funny that I'm complaining about this because I spent a lot of time as a child outside, in the rain, in the heat, in the snow. But as an adult, I just can't stand it. I don't know why. I don't like being outside if it's too extreme out there. So it is what it is. Something else that I think is underrated that doesn't get spoken about enough is motivation. What's motivating you to get better? Are you putting together content of some sort, like building a portfolio, making videos for YouTube, etc.? Are you sponsored? Because that comes with the expectation that you promote in a certain way and maybe even perform to a certain level. And the same could be said for maybe even receiving some sort of payment for what you do. Or maybe you're just overflowing with intrinsic motivation, or maybe you just hang around with a bunch of pilots that push you to be way better than you normally would be on your own. But at the end of the day, you need to have something that's motivating you, because this shit is not easy at all, especially if you're on the journey to be the best pilot that you can be. So really hone in on your why, right? And that can be applied to other aspects of life as well, not just FPV. As long as you know exactly why you are doing what you're doing, you'll be okay. But let me know what you think in the comment section. What's motivating you? What do you think is important when it comes to freestyle? What type of freestyle do you like? Thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe. Catch you later.